Is it your testimony that those allegations are categorically false?
Unequivocally, categorically false.
So there have been no occasions during your tenure when FBI personnel were unable to promptly reach you?
Absolutely not. You can ask my entire workforce. They hear from me at every single hour of the day.
Some decisions in Washington are made quietly. It doesn't make it into the press release. No official statement is made, only a few names are removed from the system, and then everyone looks at other things. But this time it was different, because the timing of this decision carried a detail that changed everything. The last days of February 2026. Patel fired 12 agents and staff from the counterintelligence unit within the FBI. These individuals were part of an elite team specialized in Iranian threats, having acquired deep knowledge and networks over the years. There was no official justification for the purge. The unofficial reason was clear. These people had been involved in the investigation into Trump's possession of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And then just a few days after this purge, Trump declared war on Iran. This was the picture that Senator Chris Van Hollen laid out on May 12, 2026, and Patel didn't know what to say in response to that question. Background: revenge liquidation. To understand everything, we need to go back a few months. At the end of February 2026, just a few days before the U.S. launched a major military operation against Iran, FBI Director Kash Patel removed a dozen agents and personnel from a counterintelligence unit tasked with monitoring threats from Iran. These individuals were dismissed for a simple reason. Each had been involved in the investigation into President Donald Trump's handling of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate. The 12 people Patel fired were members of an elite counterintelligence unit that investigates threats from foreign governments and specializes in Iran. When you put these two pieces of information side by side, the gravity of the situation becomes clear. A unit specialized in Iran. It was deployed days before the war. The reason for the distribution? To be involved in the Trump investigation. This is a decision that prioritizes personal retribution over intelligence operations, and this decision was made on the brink of war. Patel's firing of 12 FBI employees was described at the time as a vengeance purge. The firings in question came shortly after it was revealed that Patel and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles' phones were subpoenaed as part of the investigation into classified documents at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. According to the emerging picture, while Patel's direct connection to the investigation comes to the forefront, the dismissal of agents specializing in Iran who were involved in the same investigation raises serious questions. Van Hollen's opening: "Your private life doesn't concern me." When Van Hollen took the podium at the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing on May 12, 2026, it was clear from his very first sentence that he was taking a different approach. Van Hollen said in his opening statement, "Director Patel, I don't care about your private life at all."
Why are the Iran experts so critical? To grasp the gravity of this purge, it is necessary to understand what the purged unit was doing. The dismissed agents were members of an elite counterintelligence unit investigating threats from hostile foreign states, particularly Iran. These individuals specialized in Iran. What was this unit doing? It was detecting Iran-linked spies. He was monitoring Iranian agents operating on U.S. soil. He was conducting operations against assassination and kidnapping attempts linked to the Iranian government. The intelligence resources, human networks, and technical surveillance capabilities accumulated over the years were within this team. In the letter sent to Patel by the members of Congress, the following warning was included. The counterintelligence agents and personnel you dismissed are specialized in monitoring and mitigating threats from foreign adversaries, including Iran. Your firing of these experts just days before the U.S. ordered an attack on Iran raises serious questions about coordination within the Trump administration, as well as casting doubt on the FBI's capacity to detect and counter Iranian operations while at war. In a state of war. This sentence summarizes the gravity of the situation in a single line. While the U.S. is effectively at war with Iran, the intelligence experts who used to monitor that country are no longer on the job. New agents can't acquire expertise accumulated over decades in a week. The irony of the timing, days before the war. The timing of this purge seems to go beyond coincidence, and Van Hollen truly threw this timing in Patel's face during the hearing. Patel fired 12 FBI employees who had been involved in the Trump Mar-a-Lago classified documents investigation. These firings occurred just a few days before the U.S. launched a large-scale military operation against Iran. Now let's think through this timeline. Patel makes a personal decision for revenge and brings Iranian experts into the system. A few days later, Trump declares war on Iran. And at the beginning of this war, the chairs of the FBI's most experienced unit on Iran are empty. Let's adapt this to another field. A city is experiencing tension with a neighboring country. The mayor is
using the FBI as a weapon, Van Hollen's second front. The second issue Van Hollen raised alongside the Iran intelligence purge was how the agency was being used. Van Hollen also questioned Patel for using the FBI as a weapon against a former FBI director. Additionally, the subpoenas sent to journalists reporting negatively about the FBI were also a subject of criticism. When these two issues are considered together with the Iran purge, the resulting picture points to a highly consistent pattern. Patel uses the FBI for the following purposes: personal vendetta, to silence those who criticize him, to target political rivals. And what is sacrificed for these purposes? True national security capacity. The purging of Iran experts, the journalism subpoenas, and the investigation targeting the former director are not independent of each other. Their common logic is this: it is not the institution's mission, but the director's priorities that are decisive. At this point, Van Hollen directly asked Patel, "Do you know that lying to Congress is a crime?" Patel's answer: "I did not lie to Congress." This single sentence carries the weight of the entire trial, because Patel argued under oath that the removal of Iran experts did not affect operational capacity, and the course of the war will test the validity of that defense. Journalist subpoenas, closing down or silencing. The third issue that Van Hollen raised in the hearing was the FBI's attitude toward the media. Van Hollen drew attention to the subpoenas issued in the new era against journalists reporting negatively about the FBI. This is a very serious line being crossed in a democratic state. The FBI, as an institution, cannot use its subpoena power to investigate the press's journalistic activities about itself. The use of this power for this purpose directly violates both the First Amendment and the principle of institutional neutrality of the FBI. However, the main issue here is not just the protection of journalists, because the message these actions convey creates the perception that if you report negatively about the FBI, you might become part of the investigation. And as this fear spreads, the question of who will control an unregulated entity becomes increasingly critical as the institution's activities move away from public oversight. Conclusion: intelligence gap and accountability. The picture emerging from this hearing requires a three-layered analysis. First, the purging of Iran experts created a concrete operational gap in terms of national security. The fact that it occurred days before the war indicates that this gap opened at the most critical moment. In the letter written by the members of Congress to Patel, the following warning was clearly stated: "Your decision to fire these experts just a few days before the war has been noted as weakening the FBI's capacity to detect and prevent Iran-related operations in a wartime environment." The perception that the purges were motivated by personal vendettas rather than institutional performance has sparked a separate debate, as has the view that serving in the Mar-a-Lago investigation was sufficient grounds for targeting the Iran experts. Third, the way Patel has used the agency, combined with journalist subpoenas and investigations targeting the former director, paints a picture of systematic interference with the FBI's institutional independence. The moment Van Hollen confronted Patel with this picture was when all these layers could be distilled into a single question in the courtroom: who are you running the FBI for? For the American people or for other priorities? And Patel's answer to this question became a defense practice filled with statistics. But statistics don't fill the empty chairs of Iran experts. If you want to follow this type of analysis, subscribe and see you at the next hearing.